Hello everyone, welcome again. Today we are going to see the past perfect, so let's start.
I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field and don't notice it.
To form the past perfect, we need the auxiliary verb to have in its past form and the past participle form of the main verb. This is one of my favorite books. I'll try not to make any spoiler. Well, the morning after the road was finished as far as the lingua were concerned, after all it had reached their village. What should we discover but the road builders were back at work? Here we have our auxiliary verb, had. Reach is a regular verb, so we use its past form, adding ed at the end of the verb. Because we had spent so much of our money in time roofs and voyage over, it had to be a poor man's month in England, but it was a very good time for us. The verb spent is an irregular one, so we use its past participle form, spent, and as you may notice, here the verb have is the main verb. We are not using it as an auxiliary verb. In the video of the past simple tense, I explained better the differences between regular and irregular verbs. Generally, we add the ed termination to the base form of the verb. When the verb ends in e, we only add d. You have to memorize the irregular verbs, but you can organize them. For example, you have verbs that don't change. They are the same in their degree. For negative sentences, we add not to the auxiliary verb. Well, I read and I read, until I thought my eyes would fall out. I read where the Africans sold us, because they loved money more than their own sisters and brothers. How we came to American ships, how we were made to work. I hadn't realized I was so ignorant silly. The little I knew about my own self wouldn't have filled a thimble. Here we have had not in the contracted form. And for questions we put the auxiliary verb first, the subject, and the past participle form of the main verb. Monrovia was the last place we were among people we were somewhat used to, since it is an African country that was founded by ex-slaves from America who came back to Africa to live. Had any of their parents or grandparents been sold from Monrovia, I wondered. And what was their feeling, once sold as slaves, now coming back, with close ties to the country that bought them to rule? I wanted to clarify the contraction of had. Sometimes I get confused because I'm used to see this contraction with the word would. One tip to identify which word is contracting is the verb that follows the contraction. If we have the base form of a verb without to, we are using would, and as I just explained, if we have the past participle form of a verb, we are contracting had. Well, I started to fight him, and with God's help, I hurt him bad enough to make him let me alone. But he wasn't mad. He said because of what I'd done, I'd never hear from you again, and you will never hear from me. First we have the past participle form of the verb to do. This d is contracting had. Then we have the base form of the verb here. This is the contraction of would. We even have the complete word after. Some verbs are the same in their base form and past participle form, so the second tip is to see the context. We are contracting the word would when we have a conditional word as if, and if we are expressing a desire or an intention. I did love to cut hair, I say to Shu, since I was a little bitty thing. I'd run to get the scissors if I saw her coming, and I'd cut and cut, long as I could. Run is an irregular verb. Its past participle form is the same as its base form, but here we have a conditional meaning, so here the contraction is for the word would, and the verb run in its base form. In the first sentence, we say that never hear from you again, we express an intention. And to recognize when we are using the past perfect, we need to know the functions of this tense.
Not getting one penny of my money, not one thin dime.
Did I ever ask you for anything? Did I ever ask you for anything? I never asked you for nothing, not even your sorry ass handed man.
We use the past perfect when we have two time references. Its first function is to talk about an action in the past that happened before another action in the past. It helps to clarify a sequence of events. Sometimes Tashi comes over and tells histories that are popular among the Linka children. I'm encouraging her and Olivia to write them down in Linka and English. It will be good practice for them. Olivia feels that, compared to Tashi, she has not good histories to tell, but then we got into a discussion of how Tashi's people histories got to America, which fascinated Tashi. She cried when Olivia told how her grandmother had been treated as a slave. This is our first action, and this is the second one. Both are in the past, but the past perfect expresses the first one. This is Samuel's history, almost word for word. The stranger who married the widow was someone Samuel had run with long before he found Christ. When the man showed up at Samuel's house, with first Olivia and then Adam, Samuel felt not only unable to refuse the children, but as if God had answered his and Cain's prayers. Here, Samuel thinks that God had answered his prayers, first action, so he felt unable to refuse, second action. But in the first sentence, the stranger who married the widow was someone Samuel had run with long before he found Christ, we have our second function, and we use it when the previous action has a duration of time. We continue to focus in the sequence. Here we see markers, time markers like before, after, since, because. In this sentence, we can understand that Samuel had run for a period of time with this man, and then he found Christ. I hadn't heard so much hammering since before Sophia left, but every evening, after he left the field, he knocking down and nailing up. Same here, since is our marker, hadn't here is the previous action, and left the second one. That was the past perfect. I hope it was clear and the examples were helpful to you. I highly recommend this book. I like everything I put in my videos, but I think this book teaches multiple things. It taught me a lot. Or you can watch the movies. I only like the first one though.
I want to know something. I want to find out something. I want to find out what I don't know. But to some extent about what limits am I willing to go to.
That's all for this video. Bye and see you in the next lesson. Some verbs are the same in their... Justo, pasa el heladero, justo. Verbs are the same in this...